We are off.
Hi, would you tell us your name and what's the name of the business that you own?
My name is Chris Hughes, and I own Racket Billiards and Pub.
And where's that located?
It's located in Buffalo, Missouri.
And what's some of the history associated with that area?
Well, the building itself was built in the 1900s, but Buffalo has had a crazy history of the Civil War being burned, and as a trading area, I believe that the square was burned 2 or 3 times.
And I've heard that pretty much the whole town square is haunted, and Racket's close to the town square, isn't that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I think that the building across the road from it, the old hotel, is the only building that's still standing from that time in the area.
And what's some of the interesting history about the building at Racket's Inn?
Well, the building was at one time a harness shop, a bank, a newspaper. It had been several different things. It became a pool hall in the mid-60s. The original pool hall was underneath the abandoned bank building, and when it burned, it was moved to the other side of the road where we currently are.
Isn't there a rumor or a legend associated with one of the back rooms in the pool hall?
Yes, at one time during the 70s, supposedly a lot of big wheels and money people in the Buffalo area had illicit pool games back there, or poker games back there. And there were ladies of the night and all kinds of crazy things that their wives didn't know about that supposedly went back in this little room next to a back door that was kind of hidden. It has become my tanning bedroom and a place for some belly dance costumes.
And you told us about a safe that was part of the building when it was a bank?
Yes, there was a safe there when it was a bank. When we purchased the building, several people had asked me about the story about the safe, and I was like really excited about it. I thought that there was supposed to be like something hidden in the safe. I had heard rumors that there was gold from the Civil War, that the safe was full of money, that when the city burned, that people hid in there to avoid the fire, and that that the safe had never been opened because it had been sealed by fire and then later by rust over the many years. When we purchased the building, we found out that a local gentleman, Terry, had remodeled the building in the 70s, and yes, the safe did exist. I asked him about it and if he opened it, and he said he didn't believe that there was anything in it. He didn't open it because it couldn't be opened, that his business had been broken into 3 times because people trying to find out about the legend of the safe. We had a dance floor in the other room. He said that when he built the dance floor and poured the concrete, he purposely dumped the safe in there and filled it with concrete to keep people from breaking into his building in the future.
So this wasn't just a wall safe, that was an actual huge vault that could hold actually people?
Probably approximately 4 to 5 people. It was like a walk-in bank safe. There's 2 others that are in Buffalo now. The Chamber has one that they use there. It's kind of black painted. It's really cool walk-in safe. There's also another one that the Rao building has right up the road from us. That was the bank later after ours. Our building was not.
So nobody really knows if people actually got trapped alive in that safe and they're possibly buried in the floor of your pool hall.
No one knows. There could be there. I've always thought that there was something in it. I wanted to see what was in it, if it was gold or old money or what was in it.
And you've seen shadow figures in the building?
Many times, many times.
Where's a lot of the activity located? Is it in this area?
Well, we have a lot of different areas that we see things in, but that area seems to be very, very active. We've heard walking across the floor, footprints. Actually, on one occasion, I had a dance class going on. I had about 9 students, and in that that's where I had my class, was right on the dance floor. On the right, next to the door, one of my girls was back there, and in the middle of class with the music going on, we heard a huge growl, and when I looked in the mirror, it looked like the 2 girls were pushed forward, and it just sounded like a large animal growling, and it just kind of forced its way through the back of the room, and everyone was quite terrified, and we left for the night.
Isn't there some other stories connected possibly with the building that might have a connection with the vault about all the other businesses that have failed ever since that time?
Well, since Terry buried the vault, his business did not succeed. He spent a lot of money and did an actually fantastic job remodeling the building. And it was supposed to be a place for kids to have fun and people to play pool. That business did not succeed. It was later purchased by another gentleman. Again, his business did not succeed. The person that we purchased it from had bought it for his daughter. His daughter and his son left, leaving him with the building. He rented it then to another person, and it was Medicine Hat Billards, I think, at that time. They did not succeed. They ended up, I think, squatting in the building, and the electricity had been turned off on them. And when we traded it for a rental property, I was really excited about making this into a dance studio, but then we found the history of it being a pool hall, and we had 4 antique tables in there that were 2 Brunswick, 2 A. Schmidts, and they were in consecutive serial number. And then we found out A. Schmidt used to make them for Brunswick, and all 4 tables were ordered at the same time. And then we also have a old snooker table there. So after the history, we decided to open it as a pool hall ourselves, but we closed it and divorced this year. So the building is now for sale again.
And there's a legend that involves something that happened with one of the pool balls.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I had a student that had come in, a young girl. She was like 16. Her mother came with her to watch class and ask questions about it. Afterwards, she stayed to visit and ask some more questions about class and left with me when I was leaving the building. I was locking the door. I had a little problem with the key, and kind of flippantly, sarcastically said, "Oh, it must be the ghost." And she said, "Yeah, you know this place is haunted." And I said, "Really?" I said, "How do you know this is haunted?" She said that her brother hung out there in the 70s, and one night, him and 2 friends were playing pool. It was about 3 in the morning when the pool tournament was over, and they were chatting while the owner was cleaning up. She said that one of her brother's friends started talking about the ghost, and they started telling stories. And one of his other friends made a sarcastic remark and said, "Oh, I wish I was a ghost because then I could stay here and play pool all the time." About then they heard a crash, and the owner came running to the front door where the window was broke out. And he ran outside to see if someone had thrown a rock and broke the glass. When they all went outside, they saw the pool ball was laying out in the driveway, and the glass had been broke from the inside out. After I heard this story, I realized that we had a similar thing happen just only months before that. One of our employees, Lois, had been very nervous, very scared about the ghost. It bothered her. She was closing late at night by herself. And one of our regulars, Shrek, decided to stay there with her and just kind of keep her company so she didn't have to be there alone. She began telling him some of the ghost stories, and Shrek was making fun of her. And he told her that there wasn't any such thing as a ghost. He wishes there was. And all of a sudden, from the dark room, the same room that the pool ball went flying out of, a piece of plastic came flying out of his chest, hit him, and bounced off. And it was thrown rather hard and just bounced off of him. He said he was quite shocked, and we still had the piece of plastic in a cup up above the counter. Anyhow, they turned on the lights, looked everywhere, could find no explanation for that.
And there's various sounds, animal sounds in the building?
We've heard whistling, growling, funny laughs that are like, kind of weird stuff like that. I had one incident with a whistling. I'm not sure if it was an animal sound, but our Coke deliveries are usually made around 2 in the afternoon. Our business didn't open till 4, so the business would be vacant when the deliveries would come. I would leave our other business, unlock the door, let the delivery guy in, and pay him and go. Our Coke guy came, made his delivery. I was writing the check at the counter. That was the only light that was on at the bar. And we began to hear whistling, like a parrot singing a song or a person whistling a song coming from that other room. And as I was writing the check, I made eye contact with him. And then we both turned our heads and looked in another room. And the whistling continued until he said, "So we're the only ones here, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it went dead quiet. And he's like, "No, seriously, so there's somebody else here." And I'm like, "If there was, I wouldn't have unlocked the door and let you in." And he's like, "So what was that?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but we hear it a lot." And he turned on every light. He went through the entire building, and he said, "You can't tell me there's no one else here." And he told me that was one of the most frightening experiences that he had ever had in his life.
And then there's a couple more things. The heavy object that you had that blocked against the door. You want to tell us about that story?
That was probably the most frightening experience that I had ever had. I had had lots of noises, experiences. I've been told by people, maybe it's someone just passing, that I could talk to the entity and maybe they would like leave me alone, or you tell them to leave you alone. I was moving some costumes. I was getting ready for a performance, and I was moving costumes from the storage room out the front door and loading them in my car. We had a particular door that would close all the time. The lights kept flickering on and off. We'd had the place completely rewired. There was no reason for this. There was no explanation for it. The door kept opening and shutting to the back room. It became to the point that it was really annoying. So I picked up a case of poker chips. The case is approximately that long, that tall, and about that deep. And I would say it weighed about 20, 25 pounds. Pushed the door closed, set it there, and then loudly said, "Blank you ghost, I got stuff to do," and walked forward. About that time I hear a scraping noise, like shh. Turned around and said, "No way." The poker chips moved out of the way, and I saw the door slam. And then the light came on underneath, the fluorescent light came on, and you could see something black moving underneath the door. At that point, I said, "You win." I turned off the lights, locked the door, and I left.
And I know you have a lot more stories of things that happened, but I want to ask you to relate one more about one of the people who worked for you and her incident with the bathroom and the light.
Oh, one of our employees, Chase, and this girl's pretty tough. She hunts and fishes, and she's not really afraid of much, I would have to say. And she worked for us. She'd had several experiences. This was her last one. She gave her notice after this. She had went to the girls' restroom, and the light was slightly inside the door, and it was a habit when we were in a hurry and we were kind of trying to close down, and we'd start turning off lights, to just like swing around the room and flip that light off. She swung her hand around to flip that light off, and she said someone grabbed her hand pretty strongly. And she said, "Oh, excuse me." And she thought, oh my gosh, they hadn't closed the door all the way, and there's a woman in there using the restroom. And there was no response, and she opened the door, and there wasn't a single person in there. And she said she just really couldn't take that anymore.
Well, thank you, Chris, for telling us just a few of the stories that's taken place there at Racket. And thanks again.
Okay, thank you, Janice.